I can't start yet because you can't see me. We clearly didn't rehearse this part. Hold on, let me help. My gosh. All right, so you all know how this story starts. It was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And the fact is, though, that it is less than 2 years since Disney bought Lucasfilm. For many of us working on Star Wars Rebels, it might feel like a lifetime, but it's a very collapsed period of time. And when that happened, there were a lot of doubters out there. There was all sorts of blogosphere writing about Mickey Wan Kenobi, Jedi Mini, and they were really daring us to mess it up. At the same time, most of the focus was really on the idea of what we call now Episode 7, which is the next theatrical film that's coming out in December of next year. But those of us in television, spurred on by our CEO, Bob Iger, knew that we had to create some content before the film came out to basically create the runway for Episode 7. And I don't think any of us thought really hard about the fact, because it would have scared us to death, but that if we messed it up, we would have messed up the biggest franchise in the history of filmmaking. Thank God we didn't mess it up. But about a year, just under 2 years ago, we all sat at what is called Skywalker Ranch in Northern California. The Disney team and the Lucasfilm team gathered around, and the Lucasfilm team pitched us a couple of ideas for what they thought would be the first new content created by this merged team. And we loved what they came up with. There were a couple of people who had been part of the Lucasfilm world in the past, who'd worked on Star Wars Clone Wars in particular, which we were big fans of, and that gave us great comfort knowing that they were going to be part of it. But the fact is, we were putting a flag in the sand to say, this is what the next iteration of Star Wars is going to be under the Disney banner. And the people there are named Carrie Hart, Carrie Beck, a great writer named Dave Filoni, Simon Kinberg, and our supervising director, a guy named Dave Filoni, who was part of the Clone Wars, were the core team that was assembled to pull this off. We sat with them, we talked this through, we gave them the charge, we put a timeline on it, knowing how quickly we had to get this done. It was a nearly impossible task given what we expected creatively from them. As I said, I'm proud to say that what we've come out with is quite extraordinary. We premiered the first movie, Star Wars Rebels, 1 week ago in the US and about 5 or 6 other countries around the world. It premiered beautifully, ratings-wise. It got tremendous critical acclaim. And so we thought it was a great opportunity, 1 week in and many, many years to go, to share with you a little bit of what Star Wars Rebels is all about. So I am really thrilled to introduce to you the co-creator of Star Wars Rebels, the executive producer, and the supervising director, Mr. Dave Filoni.
Hello. Thank you very much. That was really exciting with the smoke. It's a whole other dimension we work with here on Star Wars. I'm really excited to be here. I've never been to France before, so everything is new to me. Thank you all for coming out. I think the first thing to make clear about a Star Wars animated program is something that George Lucas instilled in me. For those of you that don't know, for the past about 9 years, 10 years, I worked closely with George Lucas on the Star Wars animated series Clone Wars, which had a very successful run. And one thing that he always felt was important was that we would never treat any content like animation as something lesser than the films that he made. So all of the animated episodes we did, all the writing, the way we made that show was like a miniature version of the way that George had made his films dating back to the 1970s. It was an incredible education. I was very grateful for that. And all the while, George would tell me that he was teaching me how to make Star Wars, because one day he would retire and move on, and then we would have to carry on without him. And I always thought, yeah, sure, that's never going to happen, because if any of you have ever met George, he's just very into it and loves what he's doing. And then one day he sold us to Disney, which was shocking. But it turned out to be very exciting. It proves to me again that when he says he's going to do something, he always does it. So thank you for that. And it really fell to us to kind of make the future of Star Wars happen. I was very glad that it was going to be with Disney, because I had worked for Walt Disney in the past and had a relationship with some of the key creatives there. And we all knew that the most important thing here was going to be to not change what Star Wars is, but maintain and be faithful to what it always has been, which is something that primarily inspires people, inspires kids, gives them a sense of hope. I mean, I think that's what we all want. Yes, you go on an adventure and it could be fun. Yes, there are dark elements. You'll hear a lot of fans talk about, I want Star Wars to be dark. And yet, you know, I get this a lot from older fans. They say, well, Dave, are you making this for kids? And I say, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, well, why? And I said, well, how old were you when you first saw Star Wars? And they go, oh my gosh, I was 6 years old, and it was the greatest thing ever, and it changed my life. I'm like, right, you were 6 years old. Now you're 46. The magic of Star Wars is that you still love it just as much. There's something about it, it's in the way the stories get told, that people just don't want to let go of it. You relate to it, and it relates globally too, which is kind of an amazing thing when you think about it. It's something that everybody can find a character that relates to them, that they feel embodies experiences they're having. That's part of the magic of what makes Star Wars special. So, in Rebels, we've gone about creating a new cast of characters. Something that we felt was important was if we're going to make Star Wars successful, it has to have a broad reach of characters. We can't just always rely on Han, Luke, and Leia, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Padme. We have to kind of keep giving every generation of kids a new generation of characters to follow. And one of the primary things that, if you think back to the original Star Wars films, which is very much the basis for Star Wars Rebels, the tone of the original Star Wars films, which are very fun, they're effervescent, they're exciting, they're inspirational, is comedy. People don't always think comedy and relate to Star Wars, but I would bet you that a lot of the lines Harrison Ford has makes you laugh. Carrie Fisher saying, get this walking carpet out of my way. It's kind of funny stuff, right? But people overlook the funny. However, I always felt, and George always felt, that the funny is what kind of bound it all together. That if you're watching something that's kind of ridiculous, the funny's kind of winking at you and letting you know, okay, we're in on it too, but go along for this ride because it is going to be exciting. So one of the aspects that we had to have, that we didn't do as much in Clone Wars, was a bit of comedy. And you don't want to ruin villains, you can't show too much of them, but it was a funny thing. I worked on Clone Wars we did 6 seasons of it, and an interesting thing that's very different. People note all kinds of differences in the prequel era of Star Wars and the original trilogy era, and they'll bring up all types of things. But one of the main differences that people, I think, always miss is that in the prequels, when you run into the villains and you have Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi run into the room, Anakin and Obi-Wan turn their lightsabers on, they fully engage, and they're probably going to win because they're some of the greatest heroes of their day. In the classic trilogy, you have Han, Luke, and Leia. None of them really know what they're doing in any particular scene. They kind of make it up as they go along. And when Darth Vader shows up, they sure run out the other side. Like, they're trying to get away. The only time that they ever come face-to-face with Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back, quickly they're captured and have to sit down and have dinner with him, right? Remember that scene in Cloud City when Lando betrays them. But in A New Hope, they see Vader from afar. The first thing they do, they shoot the door to lock him away, and they get the heck out of there. So we thought it'd be really fun, and something we liked about classic Star Wars was the heroes are probably going to run away, because when they finally decide to stand up and face evil, they've really earned it, and they have the courage, the ability to do so. It's something important, I think, to show, yes, our heroes will have a lot of victories in the course of season 1. They can't not, they're the heroes. But they build up to their bigger achievements. They have to earn it. And you can't actually ever really gain a lot without sacrificing quite a bit as well. These are all important things. Remember, in Cloud City, Luke confronts Vader at the wrong time. He loses his hand over it. So we haven't gone that far yet. Maybe, Gary. We'll have to see if we can get there. But it's exciting, the sense of sacrifice, the sense of thrill and excitement as our heroes earn the ability to be among the greats in the Star Wars galaxy. And I think that that's what they're fighting for over the course of season 1. And we'll see what the repercussions are for that. But on the big cinematic scale, we have to have great action set pieces. It's always something you remember in Star Wars. You have the trench run in the first one. You have then the Snowwalker battle in the second one, followed by an asteroid field chase. You know, there's always something new George was doing that upped the game. And when you're in a television series week to week, you always have to come up with new action sequences. A lot of our action is actually inspired by Indiana Jones. And something that we did a good deal of study on in Indiana Jones is that he'll inform the audience right off the bat, here's the problem, here's how I'm going to solve it. And as he goes to try to solve that problem, 3 other things are going to occur that are usually become problems that he didn't see. This makes it funnier, more entertaining, and actually creates a ton of tension. To have a lot of tension, that's what's going to drive these movies forward. It's going to drive Star Wars forward, drives Indiana Jones forward. It's why I keep cutting the clip where something, kind of terrible happens so that you're all upset about what happened. Are they going to get away? I don't know. Well, you have to go watch it. So it's all a little subconscious thing I like to do, because ultimately what you want when you have kids watch this is they can't wait till next week to watch it again. Or now they can watch it right on their phone. They can watch it on their app. They can download it immediately. I want kids watching Star Wars all the time. I spend so much time making this. I don't want them to be one and done with it. I want them to be obsessed with Star Wars, because I was. And if you do it right, it's such a wonderfully rich universe that I think you can achieve that. Hopefully very exciting. Poor droid, but yeah, droids can be repaired. So Chopper's probably not. He's probably not completely dead, just partially dead. But as always, I remember as a kid when R2 got shot in the trench run, it was really devastating. And then he comes out at the end, it's really exciting. So I always love that kind of stuff. Really what I get to do every day is I get to kind of play in the memories of my childhood and pass it on to future generations, which is one of the most rewarding things I think you can do creatively. All of us, I think, why we got into this industry is we want to inspire, we want to give something to future generations that get them excited, that kind of lead them down a path that would hopefully be better than it is worse. And I think that, in an odd way, Star Wars did that for me. So I obviously feel very strongly about it. When I got to Lucasfilm, it turned out that it really was the magical, great company that I always thought it was going to be when I followed my dream to get there. And now having it a part of Walt Disney and knowing how much George admired Walt Disney and his legacy, it made complete sense to me that now we're a part of that and in this much bigger picture. So it's exciting. I have actually done this on time, which I'm really shocked at because I tend to be a rambler. But I have kept my rambling limited today and tried to get through this at hyperspeed pace. So I think that is it. If there are any questions, yeah, I could take some questions from the audience. We have 3 minutes and 19, 18, 17 seconds and ticking. You can ask nerdy Star Wars questions too. I'll do my best.
Hi, thanks. It's been a brilliant talk. I'm really fascinating. How do you think about the spin-offs and the story? So when there's digital stuff, whether there's games coming out or other things, are you thinking about the storyline and how these characters go into those other worlds, as well as the TV show?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. One of the things that's very different now under the new auspice of Lucasfilm Disney is that all of the material that we're creating on different fronts line up. Before there was an expanded universe of Star Wars, and then there was what George Lucas made. So George made the 6 films, and he made the Clone Wars. So all of that was in continuity. But things like the books and the comics was out of continuity. It was just, they were great stories, but they weren't part of what we figured into. Now I have talks with the people doing the spin-offs. I am in collaboration with guys doing video games. So I know what's going on several different fronts. First, so we don't step on each other's toes, so we're always creatively doing new and exciting things. But second, because there's always opportunities. Because I think in this day and age, something fans love is that when they see something on television, they go to a movie, it's reflected, and then they play a game, and it all fits together. People like feeling that there's this massive universe out there, and Star Wars should all be one continuous thing. Anybody else? We have 1:53, 52. It's fine if there's not. You can ask about my cowboy hat, that's fine. If you'd like to know. I wear a cowboy hat because I worked at Skywalker Ranch. I never wore one up until that point. It is also a great thing to deflect fans at conventions. They'll see the cowboy hat so they know they can talk to me. If I take this cowboy hat, you won't recognize me. Watch, it's a trick because I'm not the person I was. I have this great Italian hair. Nobody knows. They think I'm bald. So when George and I would go to things together, I give him the hat and put it on. You'd never recognize him in a hat. So it's all deflections and diversions. Question, yeah? There is actually no motion capture used in either this show or Clone Wars. It's actually all keyed animation done on this. I have an animation supervisor that did feature film work, so Keith Kellogg is a great help in that. Also, I work with the same animation supervisor from CGCG, Jesse Yee, for the past 10 years. So it's like anything creative. If you have a great short form between you guys, you can actually get, I think, much better results. Something that we've found working on Star Wars is I want my overseas studio to feel as much a part of the process as the people that I have down the hallway, because they're all artists. So it's a big global effort to make something like Star Wars, and I need everybody to have the same passion about it. When you have that, it just drives everything, the color, the lighting, the animation, to get better and better. I wouldn't be opposed to motion capture on a different type of show, but I think for this show, which is a little bit more animation in style, it's better to go with traditional keyed animation. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Thanks. So you're making Star Wars Rebels, and the films are coming out, and we've seen Marvel do amazing things about building out their universe. Is there a chance any of these characters might appear at some point in the films? Is there a big picture being brought together here?
I'd say there's always a chance. Given that it's all one big universe, I think you never know. I think it has to make sense for the time period. And, you know, Episode 7 is quite a ways after the time period I'm in. But it's always a possibility now, and I think that's something that's very exciting about this generation of Star Wars content for people, is that it's going to be more connected than it's ever been, and I think that opens up incredibly exciting new opportunities. I think that's it. We're down to time. I have done it. So thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And may the Force be with you. I have to say that. Thank you.